Many people agree that if you use higher gears and therefore less revs, you save fuel. But do you, and by how much? And do you use more fuel when your gear is too high? Well, I'm going to find out. I have a section of road that I can reliably do 30 miles per hour on without interruption, and a car that can do 30 miles per hour in all of its gears. So I'm going to repeat that same section of road at 30 miles an hour in all the gears and see which one is the most economical. The car I'm using is a 2014 Seat Leon 1.4 turbo petrol with a 6-speed manual gearbox. I've owned it since new and it's been my driving school car the whole time I've had it, and it currently has 189,000 miles on the clock. Because I'm so high tech, I'm going to use this squash racket to mark out the beginning of the run. I'll place it on the embankment at the side of the road, and when I get to it, I'll reset the fuel economy trip computer. So I'm about to start the first run in first gear. I can't use the cruise control to keep a steady speed simply because it doesn't work in first gear. So let's try and get 30 in first. Where's my squash racket? Where is it? Thought it'd be easier to find. Oh, this feels so wrong. There it is, reset now. So trip computer reset, 30 miles an hour, manually held. I don't like this. I'm only going to do this one once because I don't think this is very good for my engine. Is that making a funny sound? Or is it just me? I think I'm getting paranoid. It does have oil in it, or at least last time I checked. The other runs I'll do 3 times and do an average of the 3, take the fuel economy reading and work out the average. But for this run, I'm going to do it once because it's a bit of a joker run, really. It's not necessary. Oh, it's reading an economy 23. Well, not too bad, actually. 23 miles per gallon. I thought it'd be worse than that. The finish line is going to be this road on the left. So when I pass it, or when I get to it, that's when I'll do it. When I get to it, I'll record the fuel economy. So 23, exactly 23. I'll stop now to write that down so I don't forget. Poor engine. I'm not doing that again. Can I smell something? I'm sure it's all just upstairs. This time I'm going to do it in second gear at 30 miles per hour with the cruise control on. Ready to reset the fuel economy meter now. So I just went past the squash racket, that's reset. I hold the button down as I pass the squash racket. It doesn't necessarily reset as soon as I do it, but it takes the same amount of time, so it should be resetting in the same place. And I've got this run now down to the road on the left. That's when I'll make a note of the economy. This one doesn't feel so wrong. It's much quieter, doesn't feel like I'm straining the engine. It's okay to rev the engine to the red line, but I don't think it's okay to leave it there for long periods of time. It started to make me a little bit unsure when I was doing it with first gear. I was thinking, what can I smell? What can I hear? What's going wrong? I'm sure it's all in my head, but I didn't feel easy. This one's much better. Look at that, 45 to the gallon already. Coming up to the finish line now, if you can call it a line, it's a road. There, 45.5. I'm going to do that run another 2 times and then I'll tell you the mean average. Done 3 runs in second gear now at 30 miles per hour, and I got 45.5, 45.1 and 47.9, giving me a mean average of 46.2 miles per gallon. That's impressive. That's 100.8% improvement in economy over first gear. Not only is that impressive, because I didn't expect it to be that much, but I didn't expect to be getting an average of 46 miles per gallon in second gear at 30 miles per hour. That road is a little bit downhill, not quite enough to get the car rolling, but probably enough to make it more economical. Let's see how third gear does. So third gear ready, cruise control ready, and set at 30 miles per hour. Ready to reset the trip computer. Where's the squash racket? Hopefully no one's stolen it. There it is, reset. Good. And I'm at 2,000 or just under 2,000 RPM. Last time in second gear it was 3,000 RPM, and in first gear it was over 5,000 RPM. So lower revs usually means less fuel, but your throttle valve needs to be open more to compensate for the lower revs because your engine produces less power at lower revs. There does become a point though when the revs get so low that you do actually use more fuel because your throttle valve is open so wide. Already I'm showing 61.7 miles per gallon. Coming up to the finish line, or the road on the side, ready to make a note of the economy. I think the hill's ending here, which is why the fuel economy is not quite as good. And there, 60.9 miles per gallon, going slightly uphill now, which is why the economy is dropping. Done 3 runs in third gear, and I got 60.9, 61.8 and 62.2, giving me a mean average of 61.6 miles per gallon. That's a 33.3% improvement over second gear and a 167.8% improvement over first gear. This time it's fourth gear, cruise control set to 30, ready to reset the trip computer. There's the squash racket and reset. I think this will give me the best economy. Fourth gear or fifth gear, I'm not sure. And I'm gonna guess that this will give me a 10% improvement over third. I don't know, I've never tested it before. It's just a guess, we'll see. The revs are 1,500 RPM, which is good for this engine. It produces good economy and good power at this RPM. And that's 500 lower than third gear, which was 2,000 RPM. Coming up to the road soon, currently at 75 miles per gallon. That's promising for my 10% as well. I'll have to work it out. And now 74.1. 3 runs in fourth gear at 30 miles per hour, and I got 74.1, 77.4 and 76.1, giving me a mean average of 75.8 miles per gallon. That's a 23.1% improvement over third gear in this car. And that is significant. And I think this is the important gear, because some people do leave it in third at 30, partly because it's easier to slow down. You can come off the gas and use the brake, and you don't have to change down a gear as early if you're in third than you do if you're in fourth. In fact, when I was taught to drive back in 2004 in a diesel, it was recommended that I left it in third, because although it was okay in fourth at 30, you had to change down a gear as soon as you started slowing down from 30 miles per hour. So my instructor said, leave it in third, it gives you more flexibility. But if your car can handle fourth at 30 miles per hour, well, it's usually going to be a saving there. And in this car, it's a 23.1% saving. That is a lot. And the improvement of fourth gear over second, if you're interested, is 64%. However, it's worth noting that if your car is struggling at 30 miles per hour in fourth gear, then you're probably not saving fuel. By struggle, I mean when a car makes that deep sound and it's vibrating, go to a lower gear if that's happening. But if your car is smooth and it feels fine, there's probably a saving to be made in the higher gear. Fifth gear this time, 30 miles per hour, set on the cruise control, ready to reset. Where's the racket? There it is, reset now. I'm not sure if this one's going to be better because the revs are quite low. I'll actually be interested in this. I hope it's better, because I generally use fifth gear at 30 miles an hour because the car feels fine, doesn't struggle, and it accelerates okay, but it doesn't actually ask for it here. It lets me use it, it doesn't recommend I go down, but it doesn't ask for it. So I'm not sure if it is more economical or not. We'll find out. At the moment it looks very similar, maybe a bit more economical. I can't remember what the number was last time. I'll get to the finish line, the imaginary finish line, and find out. It looks like it's better. 80, I don't think I've seen 80 yet. So all these years of me using fifth gear may have actually been paying off. Near the finish marker now, and that is 79.4. I'll do that another 3 times and work out the average. I don't mean another 3 times, I mean another 2 times, but 3 times in total. I'm happy with this result. 3 runs, fifth gear, 79.4, 82.4 and 85.4. 89.1. That gives me a mean average of 82.3 miles to the gallon, which is an 8.5% improvement over fourth gear. So all these years I've been using fifth gear over fourth gear because I think it feels more economical, but I'm not sure. And it has been paying off. I was a little bit worried it would come out lower, and in which case I'd have been wasting my time. And fifth gear over third gear is a 33.6% improvement in economy. Sixth gear, cruise control set to 30, ready to reset now. And this is where I think it will go the other way, because the car feels like it's struggling a little bit in sixth gear at this speed, which is why I don't use it. My Mazda MX-5 on the other hand is absolutely fine in sixth gear at 30 miles an hour. In fact, the computer asks for it, so I use it, but I'm not so sure. We'll find out. Either way, even if it is more economical, which it might be looking at things already, I couldn't recommend it because you really have zero flexibility and it doesn't feel very good for the car. There's a slight vibration through the steering wheel. It doesn't want to rev this low. It's at about 1050 RPM. And the average, it looks like it is going to be higher, is 89.1 miles per gallon. To my surprise, I did get better fuel economy in sixth gear despite the car struggling. I got 89.1, 86.1 and 89.1 again, giving me a mean average of 88.1 miles per gallon. That's a 7% improvement in economy over fifth gear and a 16.2% improvement over fourth gear. However, I don't recommend using sixth gear in this car at 30 miles per hour on that road, simply because there is no flexibility at all. There's no power for acceleration and the car feels like it's struggling. However, that road is slightly downhill. It's not enough to make the car roll if I take the handbrake off, but it's enough to improve efficiency. So I thought I'll turn around and do some runs again up the hill between the same 2 points. I did 3 runs in fifth gear and 3 runs in sixth, and here are the results. So uphill in fifth, the average over 3 runs was 60.1 miles per gallon. That's a 27% decrease in economy over the fifth gear down the hill. And sixth gear up the hill was 61.8 miles per gallon. That's an even bigger decrease compared to going downhill of 29.8%. So here we can see a bigger decrease in economy going up the hill in sixth than in fifth. And that's because in sixth, up the hill, the car was struggling even more. So it was getting to the point where fifth gear would be more economical. But even though the car was struggling more, it was still more economical in sixth than fifth. Not by much, but it was 2.8% more economical in sixth than in fifth. Whereas down the hill, sixth was 7% more economical. So if that hill was slightly steeper, I think that would have tipped the scales to it being more economical in fifth. What this has taught me is that even when the car is struggling a little bit, it's still more economical in the higher gear, or at least in this car. All cars are slightly different. It would have to be struggling quite a bit before it actually become less economical in that gear. However, I can't recommend being in a gear where the car is struggling because it's not good for your engine and you don't have control because there's no power available when you need it. Result, no one took the squash racket. Not that there's anyone round here to take it. Saw a couple of eagles. Don't think they can use it though. You may hear that keeping your revs below 1,500 RPM damages the engine. And for some engines that's true, but generally old engines. If you're driving an old Ferrari from the 80s, you probably want to keep your revs above 1,500 RPM. But in a modern engine where engineers have deliberately designed it to rev low to save fuel, and they design automatic gearboxes to change up gears early to keep the revs low and therefore save fuel, it's fine. They maintain oil pressure and they circulate the coolant quick enough to keep it cool. Whether or not your engine is okay for this, I can't tell you. There's no year where it suddenly became okay. It's a gradual progression over, over about a decade or more. I'd say between the 90s and the 2000s, that's when the change really started to happen. I remember going in a 2008 Audi A5 DSG, and the revs were like 1,200 RPM. It was a new car at the time. It was cruising along at those low revs. I was thinking, well, that's very low, but it's fine. It's what it's designed to do. This car I've had for 8.5 years, since 2014. 189,000 miles on the clock. Runs fine. Brum brum. Gets good fuel economy, and it doesn't use oil. Well, it does use a tiny amount of oil over a long period of time, but that's well within the specifications. And in fact, it used more when it was new. But that's a different story. What you should do is listen to your engine. If it sounds like it's struggling, then choose a lower gear. If there's absolutely no power when you press the gas pedal, then choose a lower gear. But if there's power and it sounds fine, then it's probably fine. Well, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for car insurance, check out the links to Collingwood and Confused in the description. Collingwood are great if you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on somebody else's car for practice, because you can do so without affecting the owner's policy, taking away a big stress from the owner of the car. Via the link at the moment, there's up to 35% off and a £20 Amazon gift card. If you want to insure your own car, I recommend checking out the link to confused.com, because you fill out one quote form, get loads of quotes back to compare who's cheapest, and you can change your car on that quote as many times as you like to compare how much it costs to insure different cars without having to go through the whole quote process again. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.